Hello and welcome to another HeroQuest video. Today I'm going to be painting the mage from the base set. I'm going to be using the wizard's card from the game as a rough guide for a rough colour scheme. It won't be exact, but it'll be good enough. Good enough so as when a player picks up the miniature and the card, they'll know exactly what's what. First thing I'm going to be doing here is using Nuln Oil, watered down, as a wash. So the plan is to give this miniature quite a healthy coat of wash. The wash will sink into the recesses and provide free shading. It'll also, because it's watered down, it won't stay on the highlighted areas, the raised areas. The next colour up is going to be Peachy Flesh, and I'm going to use it for all the skin tones on the miniature. You'll see here exactly where I paint. This is a very easy step. You can't really mess this up. You can't really make mistakes here because we're going to be going over areas beside these areas with a darker colour anyway. I'm now going to paint the wizard's tunic, and I'm going to use Maize Yellow. It's a nice bright yellow and I think it's reasonably close to the card art. As with all speed paints and contrast paints for that matter, I recommend you paint over a white background. You can of course use the slap chop method or the wash method that I'm using here. The next colour up is going to be Hoplite Gold, and I'm going to use it to paint the wizard's staff. Just the entire staff. If you look at the card art, the wizard's entire staff is gold, which makes life a bit easier for us. We don't need to worry about adding detail. There isn't really a lot of detail anyway, so nothing to be concerned about. The next colour up I'm going to use is Purple Swarm. I'm going to use it to paint the wizard's cloak. You'll see on the card art that his cloak is purple, so I'm going to stick to that. As I've said previously, I want players to see exactly who's what when they look at the card and they look at the miniatures. What I find with the pre-wash is, even if it doesn't appear to add any shading, which it does now, but it's very subtle, but what it does do is it makes all the detail on the model pop, so it's far easier for you to see it. When you are painting it, it's easier to see those areas. You can either do a brown pre-wash or a black pre-wash. I chose black for this model using Nuln Oil. You could also use Agrax Earthshade, which would be a nice pre-wash as well. The next colour up is going to be Burnt Moss. It's kind of a grey green, a dark green. In the end, I decided to add another colour to this colour because it wasn't green enough for my liking. But you'll see anyway how it goes on. Because the burnt moss wasn't green enough for my liking, I added a dot of Ghoul Green here to the mix. Give it a quick mix up and painted it over the top of the burnt moss colour. I think it's a better match for the card art. The next colour up is Nuclear Sunrise. It's a real nice orange colour. It's actually a reasonably close match for this wizard's card art. Unfortunately, it's a bit of a pain to paint, especially over the top of this yellow. It just didn't work that well. So in the end, I went in with a white and painted back over the top of that orange colour. And then the plan is, once this is dry, to go back in again with the Nuclear Sunrise colour and finish the job. Try and do it properly. I want the orange and the yellow to be two separate colours. It just wasn't working. The paints are very translucent, the speed paints, so it's going to need several coats of the orange to make it stand out a little bit. This is one of those times when I would happily use a traditional paint. The next colour up is going to be Ancient Honey, and I'm going to use it to paint the wizard's hair. The card art has him as having blonde hair, so I'm going to stick with that. This produces a reasonably decent blonde effect. And with the hair done, it's time to go back to that orange tunic, the orange parts on the yellow tunic. And I'm going back in again with the nuclear sunrise over the top of a nice white base cut colour. And it still takes several coats to get it to a reasonably satisfactory result. And I'm now on to painting the base, and again this is the colour of choice that I have used for all my bases. Use whatever grey or whatever colour you've chosen. You might have chosen to do a much more detailed base. I'm not bothering, I want these miniatures done and I want to get gaming as soon as possible, so I've chosen to keep them a solid grey colour. For the character models however, I am going to add a white band around the base, and then I'll paint that white band red, and that's just so they stand out better on the tabletop amongst the monsters, and the player characters and players can distinguish very quickly a good guy from a bad guy. I'm now coming in with some Reikland Fleshshade, and that's just, I want to give the model a wash in certain areas. You'll see exactly here where I paint with this Reikland Fleshshade. It's a very light brown wash, so you can get away with being quite heavy, even over a light colour. It'll darken the colour a little bit, but it won't darken it too much. It won't stain raised areas too much, but it does however provide nice shading. And I'm now going to use some Slaughter Red, and that's to paint that white band around the bottom of the base, and I'm going to paint it obviously red. And as I've said previously, this is just so the models stand out much better, much easier on the tabletop amongst the monsters. And I realise I sound like a broken record, but I'm always going to insist that you should varnish your HeroQuest models, because they're going to see a lot of handling and be in and out of those plastic trays. If that's where you choose to keep them, that's where I'll be keeping mine. A good healthy coat of varnish will help protect the paint. Because you've taken the time and effort to paint these models, we want to look after them as best we can. So the nice thing about this varnish is you can always come in with acrylic paint and paint over the top of it should you wish to touch anything up in the future. And that's it. That's the wizard done, and that's the base set completed. If this is the first of my HeroQuest videos you've watched, I would encourage you to go and watch the rest, especially if you're thinking of painting your HeroQuest set. I've painted everything in the base game now. This is it finished. There's going to be plenty of gaming had, and I'm going to be putting some of those games up on YouTube for hopefully folks to enjoy. Thank you for watching, and please, if you haven't already, click the subscribe button and click the wee bell icon and click the thumbs up or the thumbs down. Thank you and have a great day.